Can God use 5 stones and 5 loaves of bread? Let's find out together today. Hey kids and people of faith, it's Pastor Chad. We've been learning about numbers and counting together to learn Bible stories and what the Bible teaches about God, about Jesus, about His world and His Word. In the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 40, we read about the number 5. It's from the life of David. It says that David took a stick into his hand and he chose 5 smooth stones from a stream. He put them in his pouch and he held a sling in his hand. Then he went out to meet the giant Goliath. In verse 48, it says that as Goliath came near to attack David, David ran out quickly to meet him. Verse 49 says, David took a stone from his pouch. He put the stone into his sling and he slung it at Goliath. The stone hit the Philistine on his forehead and it sank into his head, and Goliath fell face down to the ground. David had defeated and killed the giant Goliath. Isn't it a neat thing, a wonderful thing, an amazing thing that God chose a young shepherd boy, a young, small shepherd boy named David, and one of his 5 stones. God used little David and his skill with a sling to bring down a great giant. You know, people like big things, but God often chooses little things to work out His plans. In the Gospel of John, chapter 6, we read something about the number 5 again. It's from the life of Jesus. In John 6:5, Jesus looked up and saw a large crowd coming towards Him. He said to Philip, "Where can we buy bread for all these people to eat?" Jesus asked Philip this question to test him, and the Bible says Jesus already knew what He planned to do. Verse 7, Philip answered, "Someone would have to work almost a year to buy enough bread for each person here to have only just a little piece." Another follower there was Andrew, and he was Simon Peter's brother. And Andrew said, "Here's a boy with 5 loaves of barley bread and 2 little fish. But that's not enough for so many people," he said. Jesus said, "Tell the people to sit down." There was a grassy place there. There were about 5,000 men who sat down onto the grass that day. And then it ends with, then Jesus took the loaves of bread. He thanked God for the bread and He gave it to the people who were sitting there. He did the same with the fish. And it ends with, He gave them as much as anybody wanted. Wow, that's an amazing story. I love how the Bible emphasizes that there were 5 loaves only of bread and 2 little fish. God does a great miracle using small things. That's what Jesus did. And God uses small things to show His greatness and His power, to stop us from being so proud and so independent and thinking more of ourselves. In the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 1, verses 27 to 29, this is what God says about small things. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. He chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. He chose what the world thinks is not important, and He chose what the world hates and thinks is nothing. He chose these to destroy what the world thinks is important. And you know why God did that? The Bible says God did this so that nobody can brag before Him. You see what God does again and again in the Bible? God takes the mighty and He humbles them and brings them down. And He takes the humble, the small, the weak, and He lifts them up. The Bible tells us not to look down on small things. In Zechariah chapter 4, verse 10, it tells God's people that they should not think that small beginnings are unimportant. You know, 5 is not a very big number, but God can use 5 of anything to do what He wants to do. If you love Jesus, even if you're small, even if you're small, God can make you a part of His great big plan, and He can use your life to bring Him glory. 5 isn't a big number, but God can use it to do great things. I'll see you next time.
So, Mr. 8, what seems to be the problem?
When I lie down at night, my wife says my snoring goes on for infinity.
Yes, go on. And how does that make you feel?
Well, I don't discuss it with her. I'm afraid I'll never hear the end of it.